Hello there.
You know what I've come for. This is the way.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Hello and welcome to the Podawakens as we talk the Mandalorian Season 3 Episode 1. Just kidding. We are talking Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 5, Return of the Mandalorian. I am Jordan Wiegand, and with me today, as always, Logan Stump.
I was really confused. I was like, did I watch the wrong episode to come on here and recap? Because this is just going to be really awful. I was very confused. But no, I get it now, Jordan. I understand the joke.
Yeah, it was a very, look, when we thought we were getting the Mandalorian in this episode, we didn't think it was going to be a full episode of just the Mandalorian. And to be honest, I'm really glad it was, because I feel like fitting him in any other way would have been tough, because we would have been wondering the whole time, okay, well, what's he been doing since Grogu left? Like, what, and we get all that stuff now. And to be honest, Book of Boba Fett may have originally been thought of as 6 episodes, and then they're like, hey, let's fit in a 7th, when they're writing it. What if we did one of just Mandalorian? We have 7 episodes instead of 6. Like, I think a lot of people thought of like, okay, Mandalorian usually has 8 episodes, but this one has 7, so we're losing an episode. But I'm thinking it may have been more like this was originally going to be 6, and they bumped it up to 7 to give us this episode. So I think it was great. I think that this was, not to get into my thoughts too much here real quick, but just to kind of get into it. It was just like, I thought, okay, we get the opening with the meat pack thing, and I'm like, okay, so then he's just going to go to Tatooine and we're going to hook up with Boba. And then it just kept going without it. And now I understood tweets that I saw. I stayed away from stuff really well this week compared to other weeks. So I saw like 3 tweets, and one of them was like, Bryce Dallas Howard, who directed it, take a bow. Mm-hmm. The other one was, that was not what I expected at all, and that's a good thing. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? And then the third one was something else about like, just like, that was amazing. And now I understand what they mean by, I did not expect that at all. Like, it being just a full Mandalorian episode is probably what they meant, and now I get it. So that was cool. I guess real quick, directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, written by Jon Favreau. It premiered January 26, 2022. The synopsis is an unexpected ally emerges. So Logan, share your initial thoughts here on the return of the Mandalorian.
Bryce Dallas Howard can direct about anything that deals with Star Wars from now on. I totally agree with a lot of sentiment that was on Twitter. This was a great episode. I mean, and I know that people are going to be like, well, this is funny because Boba Fett wasn't in it. It's the best episode. And a lot of people are like, well, this is just Mandalorian. They didn't really tie. I was like, this all has to do with what is coming between the two. It's like reading halfway through the book and going, you know what, I'm finished. I hated the book. I didn't get it. Wasn't going anywhere. And then not picking up the book again to kind of finish out the story. And I think this has got such a huge impact on what's coming for the rest of this, at least this series and the next series, and then kind of what's going to go forward with these two characters. Like you said, I think something big, as they've alluded to, something big's coming with the two of them, and they're going to need all the backstory that they can get, understanding what the Mandalore people thought of the Darksaber and how that came into play and how that comes into play with him leading it. So obviously Boba's going to have questions about Mando leading the charge, and so I think this all kind of ties into kind of understanding how Boba's going to interact with Mando and how Djarin's going to be basically trying to explain that he is the king, and Boba has to kind of learn how to also rule with respect because he's the crime lord. So I don't know. It's interesting, but great episode. It was easily my favorite, and probably my favorite of all all of Mandalorian and Boba Fett.
It was so good. Look, I almost tweeted this to you. I mean, not tweeted this. I almost texted this to you before you watched it,
Mm-hmm.
but I decided not to. I was like, I'll just save it for the podcast. But the first like 30 minutes is everything I ever wanted from a Star Wars TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Like that planet where they're on like that ring world is
Yeah.
awesome. It is so cool. It looks great. And this is what like I think some of the ILM people who made it, was saying like, hey, this is what we were dreaming of when we did Mandalorian season 1, like to be able to pull this off so well with the volume, with the volume that they use with all the screens and stuff, the technology. And it looked great. Like you could not tell that this was a TV show and not like a movie, him walking through the ring world. It just looked great. Seeing him in his armor, like I know Boba's armor is iconic, but just this sleek silver of the Beskar is just so good. And it matches the Darksaber perfectly. Like that picture I sent you of him holding the Darksaber, like it just matches his armor. It's just, it's beautiful. And I think that it was just, like I said, everything I wanted. Like you're kind of dropped into this, this brutal scene in the meat packing too. Like, having Grogu around did not really soften him up, I guess. Right. And he decapitates somebody for the bounty. And he also chopped somebody in half on the table. Like it was brutal. And I loved seeing him actually have trouble with the, with the saber as well. Like he even hurt himself because he's not used to it. And I think that's why this episode is needed. We need to learn, maybe not we do, but he needs to learn what the Darksaber is. There goes the cat. We need to learn what the Darksaber is for like the fans that are not, like they're told a little bit in the finale. They're not told everything here like they are here, where like they talk about the fall of Mandalore, the trail of the night of 1,000 tears or whatever, and all that kind of stuff was great for Mando to learn, but also great for some of the casual fans to learn. And what that does is when he comes in to help Boba, he now has that idea in his head of what the armor says, which is, you're fighting against the blade. So I'm assuming when he goes out there this time, he's going to go with the blade, and he's probably going to be a lot better. And that's what they would need for him. Like, it makes more sense to him just coming in this episode, helping out and being awesome at it. And then us being like, okay, well, he kind of got the hang of this. I guess we missed all that. We still get to see his character, like, learn that stuff, because even though this is Boba's show, this universe, this little section of the universe that Favreau and Filoni created with The Mandalorian is still centered around him. And it was great to kind of get that reminder this week. And I think you talked about like how people may have complained. I saw a lot more like people loving it, but some people did complain like, okay, well, Boba wasn't even in this. Why are they stealing the spotlight off of Boba in his show? Think of it like a Game of Thrones, right? Some chapters focused on Joffrey, some chapters focused on Sansa, whatever. So this week, the chapter focused on Din to get him in the spot where he's going to help out the main character of the show, Boba. So that's how I like to look at it, and it helps us see the character growth in Mando instead of him just coming in, saving the day, and us being like, well, I guess we missed some of the learning that he did, because I think it's important for us to see him grow as a character.
Totally agree. That was a really good, I mean, that's a good point. That, you have, if otherwise he jumps right in with Boba, now he's got a handle on the Darksaber. Like that just doesn't happen. So trying to explain that to the audience and usually, I mean, to be honest, if we're looking at it too, it would have been one of those episodes where it was still building some plots, and this probably would not have been a fantastic episode had it just been Boba. So I think that, giving Dan his due, I think that it helps kind of bridge that all together. And then when he does show up to help Boba Fett, and kind of has that relationship with Fennec, like I think that's going to have a huge, role in the, going forward and what the show really is and how it all ends, because it's going to be, well, I think they're going to need a lot of help to fight the Pikes. And I think one of those things might be when he does go out to kind of find whoever he's going to find, what we'll get into. I think there's going to be number one forces out there. So I think it's part of the whole recruiting process and kind of what's going to lead into this huge, I guess, climactic end.
Yeah, this was so, I don't really want to take it scene by scene for this one, because I think, like, I'd rather almost just let our thoughts kind of wander here. But starting where we're in the meat pack, and he's one, I love how he's like, hey, if you let me pass, you can take all your boss's old stuff, because your boss was probably a jerk, right? Like, that's pretty much this thing there. And they just all start running in there. Once one guy starts going in there, everybody's like, oh man, that guy's gonna get everything. So they all go around Mando, and he's going to drop off the bounty. He didn't even do it for the money. He did want the money, but his main thing was needing information on where to find the other Mandalorians. As we learn that the covert that he hung out with on Navarro, with the armorer and Paz Vizsla, have relocated here on this ring world. I don't think we have. Do we have a planet name? Let me look at that.
I never got one, but I don't know.
I don't think it was mentioned, but it might be like somewhere online already. So I guess talk about. I should have known that's where he was going, because he's looking at all the signs again, like, and I think he did that in the pilot when he was on Navarro. I don't remember. So I should have probably picked up on that, but I didn't. So were you shocked at all that we were seeing the armor again? I think we haven't seen these since season 1.
Yeah, I was shocked. I didn't know who he was going to go to. And I kind of like how that all leads into where he's going. And I did find the space station. It's called Glavis, I think. Yeah, I think that's how you say it, Glavis. So I guess that's how you would say it, the ring, like space station, Glavis or Glavis. But no, I really liked all of this leading up to it. And I think one of my favorite parts at the very beginning is not even when he gets to the ring, or the ring space station. It was when he comes in and he says his normal line where it's like, I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold. Kind of like, I'm back. So, just kind of setting the mood for Mando, because it's been a while since we've seen Mando, and it makes you feel good, because, I mean, Mando has basically existed in a time that's been really tough for a lot of people. So I think that's another thing that Mando brings for people, is just some happiness in the times that were pretty dark, dealing with pandemic stuff. But I don't know, I really liked leading up to the space station. I love the space station. I thought it was cool, kind of the way that they introduced it. And like you said, Jordan, I almost text you the exact same thing, and I know it's going to sound like I'm just saying it to say it, but I literally was like, this is exactly what I thought the Star Wars TV shows would be. Like, this felt very cinematic. It felt like when the spaceships are going up into the bottom of that space station, and kind of have that feel, and it kind of just sits there, and he's having the different interactions, trying to limp through and try to find the armor and where he's going. It's just like, this is awesome. Like, this is everything I wanted it to be. Even their fight scenes, everything I wanted it to be, because it felt very, I don't know, like, it felt like the movies again. It felt like these huge story and huge plot lines that were just kind of leading into a big end, and we got a big end. And I really did. I liked the beginning of this whole episode, and just kind of what it all stood for.
Yeah, it is Glavis. I'd seen that name before, but also it's odd because the man, not the man, the alien in the elevator with him is also named Glavis something, but I think it's more like he is a Glavis version of the alien species. Like, so I think that was kind of the confusing thing there. But look, set more stuff there, or go back there in season 3, because that planet is awesome. Now, he can't go back there because during, when he goes there, I thought it was interesting. I didn't want him to lose the spear. it's interesting the way that she thinks about that, the armor. She says that, because it's Beskar, it can also pierce through the armor of Beskar. So it's actually a danger. Logan's cat again for the listeners. I was going to say, it's a danger for Mandalorians because it could pierce their armor. So they'd rather just melt it down, and they don't create weapons out of Beskar usually. So, she melts it down, and he wants it to be armor for Grogu. And I thought that was really cool. And you kind of see her making like this little like chain link thing.
Yeah.
That I'm thinking it's going to be like an old knight type of chain vest or something for Grogu.
I don't know. I was like, is he getting a necklace? Like, what is he getting? I was so confused. Because, I honestly, I thought, I was just like picturing in my mind a little like Mandalorian, like just suit on him. And then all of a sudden, like she hands it over and it's in a bag. And then they did it perfectly where she ties it and it looks like Grogu because it's got like the ears on the side. And then that's when Mando, like at the end, starts to look at it and go, damn, I need to go back to see this kid. Like, I really miss having him around. But like that whole thing, it was, and then you get the whole cool, the backstory. And I think my favorite line of this one was when, he's sitting there and he's watching her kind of melt this metal into armor. And he all of a sudden's like, I miss the kid. Right. And I've got, it's been a really tough time getting adjusted to that. I need to go see him. And then she said, well, just know that he's with his kind. And he goes, yeah, I know that, but I really like him and I want him back. And it's kind of like, I want to go get him. And then she's like, well, if you pull him away from his people, you can't do that because if he is a Jedi, he's no longer a Jedi. If you can, yank him away from his training and whatever he's doing. And it kind of builds up this moment of like, Grogu doesn't really have the choice, or maybe he does, or maybe we see what that is, but it seems like Mando is determined to get him away from the training. And then I think that's where it'll be interesting to kind of see where Grogu ends up, because he's got to be somewhere. And, you're talking about Jedi's just falling off the earth. So, or planets or wherever they are. So
I don't think he wants to take him back. I think Mando's naive. I do. Yeah. I think he thinks, I'm just going to be able to rock up there whenever, like it's parent-teacher night, and I'm just going to be able to visit my kid, And that's not how the Jedi operate, and that's what she's kind of warning him about here. But I do think it's almost going to be like one of those things where they put the dog in between the two people, and they say, come here, Grogu, come here, and they try to figure out where he wants to go, and I think ultimately he would prefer to go with Mando. Yeah. And look, when he gets his ship later, there's a perfect-sized droid bay that is carved out for a little Grogu.
And she asks about it. She goes,
yes,
where's the droid that you're going to put in this little section? And Mando gives her the look like, it's not going to be a droid. So and he doesn't like droids really at all. He's kind of trusted him now that he's kind of had some interactions with them. But
yeah, he's had some character growth with that.
Yeah, you can tell though. Like you can tell that he's.
And that's what I was going to ask you, Logan. What is season 3 about? Because he gets turned away here from the armorer and Paz Vizsla Paz Vizsla is a descendant of Tar Vizsla, who was the first Jedi Mandalorian who created the Darksaber. Mm-hmm. Just in case that wasn't clear in the episode, or if people needed a reminder, that is the case. And Paz Vizsla is actually voiced by Jon Favreau. And Favreau voiced Pre Vizsla, which was another descendant in the Clone Wars. So there you go, some ties there. And that's actually how Favreau and Filoni met. Was Favreau was doing Iron Man stuff at ILM while Filoni was doing Clone Wars there. So they actually became friends there, and actually had him on to do voices for some of the characters. And so that's what led to the Mandalorian, pretty much. So There you go. That's really cool. But so he challenges Mando for it, because remember from the end, and they'll mention a few times in this, but in the end of season 2, he tries to give the saber over to Bo-Katan.
Yeah.
And Bo-Katan can't take it without fighting, because the last time she took it without fighting was in Rebels. Sabine, one of the main characters of Rebels, who's going to be in Ahsoka, had the Darksaber and forfeited it to Bo-Katan. And Bo-Katan took it, and then apparently we had the Knights of the Night of the Thousand Tears, and they think the hardcore Children of the Watch, meaning the Children of the Death Watch, who is another faction of the Mandalorians, they think because she strayed from the path, from the way, is why they lost and why they were almost wiped out. I'm not so sure that's why. I think that's just superstitious, but that's what the armor is pretty much saying at this point. And so Paz Vizsla is going to challenge Mando for it. Mando's even going to take off his jetpack, and they're going to fight on this little... This is one of the best part of Star Wars, by the way, is that nobody cares about safety railings, because Phantom Menace had a great fight scene with Darth Maul and that power core thing with no railings, and it's just like a staple of Star Wars. They're like, yeah, this is up to code. You don't need any railings here. And so in the Death Star, even they have those little even in Force Awakens, right, when he kills Han, there's no railings. Nobody cares about the safety. They need a better I guess rules and regulations, but I love it. So the risk here is that that he could fall, or he had fallen earlier when training with the armor and had his jetpack on, so he was able to get right back up. But it looked like Mando was going to lose this fight, and I actually thought maybe he would. I was like, are they actually just going to have him lose the saber here, and he's just going to be like, okay, I'm back to being a bounty hunter, go season 3, I'm going to get Grogu back and we're done. But I feel like that would have been an odd choice. So he wins. And I guess, I think the armor says something like, you don't just win it by, you win it by combat, but she will randomly here, I guess, ask them, have you ever taken your helmet off? And Paz Vizsla has not. And we know Mando has at least twice. He take it off in...
He took it off in season 1 where he about died.
Yeah, but nobody saw him as the droid.
Yeah.
But
that's true.
He also took it off in the stormtrooper place, right? Remember when he was going with Bill Burr?
Because he had to dress up. Didn't he have to change into something else? Didn't he have to kind of disguise himself that he wasn't Mando? Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought, because he can obviously take it off to eat. Nobody cares then, right? But it's like, if he's not around people, that's their whole thing. So he changed into that stormtrooper thing without anybody seeing him. But didn't he, when the guy was going to recognize Bill Burr or something, didn't he take off his helmet to help him or something?
Yeah, from what I can
was
remember.
That was before the finale. It was chapter 13 of The Mandalorian.
Yeah, chapter 4, Mando takes off his helmet to eat, but only on certain occasions, and he can do that. I'm trying to look. Chapter 12.
Chapter 12. Okay, chapter 14 is the tragedy. Chapter 15 is the believer. It was this one by Rick Famuyiwa.
Imperial scanner had to scan his face without a helmet, and that's when he took it off.
So yeah, Bill Burr's character had seen him without it off. And then he, of course, the one that we're all thinking of, the one that everybody remembers, him taking it off to see Grogu.
Yep.
And, Grogu wasn't the only one there. Everybody was there. So, yes, people have seen him without his helmet on. And he, says, how can I get back into... They expel him. Some people are like, well, why didn't they take the Darksaber then? Because he won it in combat. They're too scared... Even though they don't believe him to be a Mandalorian anymore, they're too scared to take it from him because of what happened with Sabine handing it to Bo-Katan. So they're not even they're willing to let him go with it. They're just not going to follow him. And they're not going to accept him as one of their own anymore. And, she mentions that he mentions the only way for him to, or she mentions the only way to get back in is to kind of like rebirth yourself, almost like a baptism in the waters underneath of like in the mines of Mandalore. And he mentions that Mandalore's like all the mines are gone. They're pretty much all wiped out after the Empire destroyed it. And she's like, well, that's the way. So it sounds like you're not coming back, is what she's pretty much telling him. But do you think that's what season 3 is? Him going there? That's still there?
Yeah, because I think that was the part where I was like, okay, I think now I know where season 3 is going to go, because he's got to go into the depths of the world, which could be really cool, because you're just going to get a whole lot of different creatures, I think, and things that he has to kind of fend off. But I think, yeah, and then also I think because we do have some of his backstory and like what happened to him, but I think you're going to give it even more, because I think they've done such a good job with Boba Fett. I think you're also going to get the more of Mando and the Mandalore, and kind of like how he's become that, and then also what the Mandalore are, and I think you'll get different branches into different kind of Mandalore, so it'll be really cool, and I think you'll get to see different variations of Mandalore, which he's already kind of seen now, and then like you had said, that there are different Mandalore that are seen throughout different portions of the or different parts of the actual I guess Star Wars itself, like the whole expansion itself. So I think that you're going to get a whole lot of that too. But yeah, now that you say that, that seems about right. That seems to be a really cool. It'll be dark too. I think it'll be kind of like, going into hell.
I think this is where they're going, but I hope. I don't want to say I hope that's not what it is, but I hope that he rejects it at some point.
Finds out he doesn't want to be part of it.
Yes, because I feel like with all the growth he's had of showing Grogu his face, of having to take off his helmet to help Mayfeld's character, that's Bill Burr, there was reasons for him to do so, and ultimately good reasons. And he has a bond with Grogu, and he could not imagine not sharing that moment with him. And it's tough because he wants to be accepted. Look, this is his family. He's known the Armor and Paz Vizsla probably for a while, right? Because he's been hanging out with them, as far as we know, on Navarro. They had multiple Mandalorians there at one point. But it's not healthy. It's not good for him. Bo-Katan is still a Mandalorian, even though she takes her helmet off. And this group, the Children of the Watch, are just extremists. They're very extreme zealots, right? Of this is the way. Oh, you can't show me your face at all. They're so scared of what happened due to them losing their way before, that they think that it has to be the way, or else we're going to get slaughtered again, when that's not the case. He is the rightful Mandalore. He can rule them, even though he take his helmet off before. Multiple Mandalores have done it. He can do that, and I'm hoping what he does is he rejects it at some point, and he takes control anyway, and says, this is how we're going to do it. This is my way. We're going to do it this way, not the way. We're doing it this way. When we have bonds with people, we can share our face. When, we can trust again. I'm going to lead us, and we're going to be strong as a people again, and not have to worry anymore. And that's what I hope he comes to, because I think it would be a step backward in the character department if he's like, well, season 3, I'm not taking this thing off again. I'm going to go into Mandalore, and I'm going to go to the mines. I'm going to bathe in the waters. I'm going to be cleansed, and I can go back and be welcomed. Because these people are just gatekeepers who are saying you can't be a true Mandalorian unless you don't take your helmet off. And it's just out of fear. It's not even out of necessity.
It'd be interesting to kind of see who, the Armor kind of runs the show, but it'll be interesting too to see just kind of like what what she thinks of it, and then if he doesn't decide to go back, like I don't think we're done seeing the armor, nor are we done seeing Paz, but I think that it is like it's got to go somewhere with them. I feel like they can't just leave them and knowing that he is Mandalore, and maybe he goes against some of their, where it's upsetting to them, or maybe he becomes kind of like an enemy to them, to where he's, because I think that'd be more interesting if those two are trying to track him down, because it's more of like, you kind of just abandon us now. You're really starting to kind of upset the way that we think that everything should be. And because you're not following the way, then, and you're kind of creating your own, then that can't be acceptable, because people think you're Mandalore, and you're kind of, you give people really bad taste, because you're not doing what we expect and what the code is. So you have to be eliminated. That'd be more fun for me. Like, I feel like that would be.
Oh, definitely. I think they might be villains going forward at some point. Like I don't think Paz is going to give up on getting back what he sees a rightful heirloom.
Mm-hmm.
His great descendant made that thing. He wants it. His father had held it at a certain point, I believe, too, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, like, it definitely, and in the Clone Wars, Darth Maul was at one point the holder of the Darksaber and was the Mandalore, even though he's not Mandalorian, but he had held it, and he had ruled part of Mandalore before, and he had people called people call them Mandalorians, where they have like the helmets with the Darth Maul horns on it. The armor kind of looks like she has horns on hers. I'm wondering if it's really like an offshoot of the Darth Maul way. I don't know. I mean, that'd be interesting. If that's how, like, if they at one point were underneath the Darth Maul, and just kind of see how that happened, and then how Bo-Katan's thing happened, and they're like, you know what? No more outsiders. We're going to consider what our insiders are, right? And it's people that only follow our creed. And so he leaves, and he has to get on a commercial air flight because his Razor Crest is destroyed, as we all remember. And funny story, by the way, I got for Christmas, I got a plastic model ship of Razor Crest. I have to build it, though, so I have to put that together.
We should live stream that.
Yeah.
You should totally live stream that. The frustration, the angst.
Son of a... Yeah. Just be muting myself all the time. But, so I asked for that. It was at Target. I saw, I was like, that's my favorite. That's one of my favorite Star Wars ships, is the Razor Crest. And my other favorite Star Wars ship gets an appearance to replace the Razor Crest in this. So, like, these are two of my top ships, and I think it's because of the symmetry. Both of them have like the engines on both sides. Like, it just is beautiful work. But so he has to check all of his luggage, which is great to think. I mean, there would have to be some commercial airlines. Not everybody's going to have their own space cruiser, right? So nice to see that. He sees the Rhodian in front of him, and it reminds him, and I heard this on another podcast, so it is funny that, like, he sees that little green guy, and it makes him miss his little green guy, and then he holds the package, and he sees it in the shape of Grogu, and he's like, I miss this kid so much. And he lands on Tatooine. Did you see the preview clip that Star Wars Twitter put out for this episode?
No.
You should. It's literally they didn't want to spoil that Mando was coming back. So the clip is literally that space cruiser landing, and then the first few people walking out of the ramp, just like, well, we're on Tatooine. And then it cuts off, and it's like, new episode of Boba Fett. And you're like, wow. I was like, this is all. I was at work. I was like, wow, this is all they showed? There must be a lot of stuff going on in this. And then afterwards, I was like, when I saw the clip happen in the episode, I was like, that's really the only thing they could show that showed anything that didn't star the Mandalorian in it. So they were like, yep.
Because you can't show Pelly, you can't show you can't show anybody. Like, you can't, not even the droids. Like, you really had to pick out some really interesting pieces. Like, I guess you could have shown the meat packer, like, just dying and falling on the table, and that's about it. It'd be like, okay, well, there you go. That's the only other part we can show you.
They could have done the meat packer with like the silhouette of the Mandalorian, but it is very easily to tell it's him instead of Boba. You know,
it is.
Because Boba has like the little visor thing at the top that comes down. He doesn't have that.
And Den's bigger than Boba. I feel Den's big. Like he's a
like
big
taller.
person. Yeah, like he always looks much bigger in stature than Boba did.
Yeah. So yeah, he lands there. He apparently Pelly had left him a message that said she had a replacement for the Razor Crest. So he's thinking she's got another Razor Crest for him because Razor Crest is just the model of the ship. Din never named it, which makes sense too. I mean, not everybody's going to name their ship. Like, I mean, Logan, what type of car do you have?
I have a Jeep Patriot.
So if your wife asks you what car did you take to work, do you say
car.
Your car? But do you say like my Jeep?
No.
Or the Jeep?
I call it a name. I have a name for it.
Do you really?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I call it Razor Crest.
You're right. Yeah, though, it's just the Razor Crest. I did have a name for my car originally, and I have a name for my car now, but I don't refer to it to other people like that because they just think I'm weird. So, it's named Starbuck for after the Battlestar Galactica character. So there you go. Played by Katie Sackhoff, who plays Bo-Katan. Oh, there's the connection. But yeah, so you know, a lot of times people just say, I took, you know, which car did you take? I took the truck, I took the car, I took the Sonic, I took the Jeep. They're not saying like, oh, I took Starbuck today, you know? So for him, he was just like, it's a Razor Crest. That's what it is, right? It's a Cadillac. It's a, you know, whatever it is. And she says, I got this old hunk of junk here, an N1 Starfighter. And at first I had the same thought you did, Logan. I saw the big engine, and I thought, no way are they giving him a pod because that cannot sustain himself in space. I'm like, what is this going to be? And then it was the Naboo Starfighter, and this is one of my this is my favorite ship. It's tied. It was my favorite ship until the Razor Crest. So it's like really neck and neck for me now. And I can't wait to get a model of this one, of Din's N1 Starfighter. But they have to put it together, and this is actually took like half the episode, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, what's your thoughts when you see the N1 and it's you know, the hood, not the hood, the cover is finally pulled off of it?
Yeah, like I was like, oh, I've never seen it, but anything but yellow. So I was like, well, that's kind of cool. I liked what you said. It was that silver. It's scrap metal. It was scrap metal. And go figure. When the Jawas find it, it's like, okay, well, it's pretty funny that they all come to, you know, it's all come together. Like it was a perfect nod back towards that first episode. And it was, you know, Phantom Menace was the first one that I had seen in theaters. So that was cool. And like you said, I could just remember little Anakin hiding in that hangar, and he's you know, he's trying to avoid the droids. He gets in and he's flying this thing around, which was awesome. But and I can remember that as a kid going, man, I need one of those. But I thought it was pod racing. I was like, what is he going to do with them? Because like you said, I was like, he can't go really that far.
That's what I was like. Are they going to enclose the pod? Like, that's what I was wondering. And then they pull it off, and I'm like, okay, there we go.
Yeah. I mean, I thought he was going to go full Anakin on us and just start, you know, pod racing. And I was like, all right, well,
it's working. It's working.
Right. But just, I don't know. I did, but it was a great nod to it. It is one of my favorites too. I just like the shape of it. It looks so sharp. It looks beautiful all the time. It's got it's almost like a stingray, like and the way a stingray is going to move through the water. So I always thought it was like just mystifying when I saw that. And I think because that was one of my first ones that I remember seeing, because you see it long before you see the Millennium Falcon. If you're younger, that's the one I remembered, right? Like that's the one I'm like, okay, that's the one I grew up with, because I can say as much as I want. I grew up with 3, 4, 5, or 4, 5, 6, but I was like, I didn't watch those as much because when I was younger, I just kind of looked at them and went, okay,
they're old.
Yeah, they're old. They're kind of weird, and like I didn't get it. But I loved Anakin, and I loved pod racing. I remember. Do you remember the game? Like, did you ever have
the pod racer game?
Yeah.
You know, you can get that, Logan. PS4 released it.
My brother and I used to play it all the time. Like we played it like that, and the Quidditch game came out for Harry Potter.
Oh,
We
the
used to play
Quidditch game
those
is
two.
so good. I still hook up my PS2 sometimes to play it.
They're so good, but no, it was great. Seeing the Naboo Starfighter was bringing me back to my childhood, which is kind of cool because for so long you kind of bring other people back to their childhood when they see Luke for the first time, or the credit scenes roll through for the first time. But this one brought me straight back to when I was a kid.
There you go. Yeah, you can buy it on PS4 and Switch. It is and Xbox One. They did a HD re-release of it.
I think I'm gonna have to go do that. Is it
yeah,
cheap?
I believe so.
I was thinking of it.
Look in the store. It's probably like $10-15. It's probably not anything super expensive. Sometimes you might be able to get it in a pack with another game, because they've been re-releasing some of those older Star
Dude,
Wars
it's
games.
$7 right now until the 3rd.
There you go.
I'm gonna buy it.
Get that nostalgia.
Buying it right now.
The game I always played was not the Pod Racer one. I didn't have that one. I know friends that did. I had it. Oh, the best game was one that my friend had that I did not have because it was Xbox exclusive. It was called Obi-Wan, and it took place right before Phantom Menace, and that game was so much fun. But no, the game that I always played was on PS1. It was the Episode 1 game. And you actually play at times as like Padme and
different characters,
even like Captain Panaka and like a whole bunch of random characters. And I just remember the level of like going through the halls of Naboo and then having to go out the window and like shoot, shoot the things up like they do. Like I just remember that level so well. But yeah, this is one of my favorite ships. It just looks so sleek. It's that was when George was trying to say, hey, look how far the galaxy had regressed under the Empire. Like, you didn't have these beautiful ships in the original trilogy at all. Everything looks brand new in the prequel trilogy. Look at like Coruscant, and you have all those speeders and stuff that look like 1950s. They look like the Vespa, like the Vespa, Mos Espa Vespas, right? So, that's kind of how it looks. But so they put this thing together, and we learn that Peli has dated some Jawas. They're very furry underneath of the robes, which is a little TMI. She's got a BD droid, like BD-1 from Fallen Order. She mentions Fathiers, which are the horse-like creatures from Last Jedi, and they're fixing a prequel ship on an original trilogy planet after, in the time frames between the originals and sequels. They talk about sequel animals. They got a video game droid fixing a prequel ship. Like, it was just all Star Wars, man. There was like, it was awesome. It was just like a great mix of all things Star Wars. There you go.
There you go. Sorry, I don't want to like interrupt you, but just gotta for the viewer or for the listeners, I just bought this pod racing game.
What'd you buy it through?
Just online. You didn't know you could do that. You can buy it online, and then all you do is like when you get back on PS4, it gives you a code. You just go in and plug it in.
Oh,
boom,
no! I always just buy from the PS shop.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I always do this. I always do it. Like I'll be sitting on there. Like when I bought Batman. Sorry to get sidetracked, but when I bought Batman, that's what I did. Like I bought it on my phone, and then you come home and you just download it.
I buy it on the PS app on my phone, and then I can click download to console.
Yep.
While I'm out, and then it just downloads it for me. It's great.
No, but this scene was great. I love this scene so much. Like, I need to go back and watch this episode again because I loved it so much. I'll probably do it on Monday when I'm like going through playing different video games.
You're off.
Yeah, so whenever I'm playing, and because I got a lot of work to do on Monday, so a lot of personal stuff. But by personal stuff, I'll be making my way through the.
Was it called Racer Revenge that you got, or
it just said Racer, Star Wars Racer.
Okay, Racer Revenge is $10.
I thought that was a really weird name for that. I guess
and then Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. Yep, Here it is. It's $6.74 on the PS app. You could have saved like 30 cents. But yeah, so there you go. They put together the ship, and they're going to do a test fight. And I just saw a great mashup of this too, where somebody put this to the song Danger Zone.
It's so
And
accurate.
it's the whole clip of him just like, and it has this great
Flying.
part where like he's flying and doing the barrel rolls and the song's playing. You're like, this is great. And they timed it perfectly for like when it talks about like turning the engine on and like he flicks the switch. It was really good edit. But yeah, we kind of get the space cops. You know, one of these Republic soldiers we've seen before in the X-wing. He's been in it a few times. He usually hangs out with the Dave Filoni pilot, but this time he was hanging out with a different guy. This guy played Luke Skywalker in the finale, and they put Mark's face over him. So this is the guy that was doing all the other work for Luke. So they gave him an actual role in this, which I thought was really cool. After he comes back and lands, he sees the Rodian again. So that's cool. And he gives him a little wave. Then Fennec comes in and, says, hey, Boba needs your help, tosses him some cash. And he says, this one's on the house, tosses it right back, which I think we thought he would do. I think we said that last week, that he would do it for free.
Yeah. I don't know. I do. I think that it was because I like the way that Boba's like doing the rule by respect and kind of has this like whole thing with respect. And now Mando seems to be on board with the whole idea of respect because really bounty hunters, like they're hunting down bad, like they're killing for money is what they're hired assassins to kill for money. Oftentimes bad guys, but still like they're still doing some really sketchy stuff. Now it's kind of flipping the script where, and again, it's kind of like when you see the Tusken Raiders, you're getting a different version of what we've grown to expect. And it is really funny to me because there is just not a lot of Boba Fett in a lot of the movies. Like there's lead up, obviously, in Attack of the Clones, and then there's lead up into, him hanging out with Jabba. He
falls into the Sarlacc pit thanks to a blind Han Solo accidentally hitting his jetpack.
Yes.
He went down like a chump.
Right.
So when people keep saying like, oh man, they're assassinating his badassery and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, he didn't do anything badass in the original trilogy.
No, he really didn't. Nor did he exist, really.
Right. All of the stuff that they're thinking of is from the books,
yes,
from the comics that were not canon, and they've moved a lot of those qualities over to Din.
Mm-hmm.
So it is interesting. But, Din says, I have to go visit a little friend first. Visit a friend first. Do we actually see Grogu next week?
Yes. I think we have
I feel like that adds... We only have 2 episodes left. I feel like that adds a lot of detour. Unless if each episode is going to be these 50-minute episodes we've been getting recently. Because I feel like that he'd leave Tatooine, come back, fight. Like, I don't know. It seems like a lot. I'm assuming, look, they're not going to defeat the Pikes next episode, right? That would be the finale if they were to do that. So, yeah, maybe we have time for a little detour. But I might even think that he somehow gets talked out of going to Grogu just yet and says, no, this thing's like imminent. And then maybe that's the start of season 3. I'm not really sure.
Grogu comes back to help them defeat the Pikes. That's what it is.
Force chokes him like he was doing to Cara Dune.
I'm telling you, he shows up and it's been, a couple of weeks, and Grogu's out here just force slamming people into the ground and lightsaber. He's got 12 different arms.
It hasn't been that long, we don't think, right?
No, it can't be. It feels like it's been a couple of weeks since we picked up, right? Like that's what I feel it is. Like it feels like weeks just after, because Fennec shows up and she's kind of like, dude, it's been a month. Like, hey, we need your help. And she goes, because I feel like if this is like years down the road, like, yeah, he feels like he owes him, but he's still kind of like, I might need some, a little compensation.
I would say at max 3 months.
Yeah.
Right.
Like this feels pretty quick because I do love the way that he says, no, like I owe him one. So I owe him for helping me. And so I will help. And that was cool. Like I wanted to always just see more of them together. And I think you're going to get a lot of really cool moments here in the next couple of episodes. Jordan, I've got a question for you. So obviously, I mean, because like you talked about it, but I think like he's got to see Grogu. Otherwise, you've got 2 whole episodes where it's just going to be Mando and Boba just kind of like chilling. Like I feel like he's going to go with Fennec and he's got to go straight to Boba. Like that'd be a whole lot of episodes.
Well, I would. My original thought before we got this whole episode of just Mando was that we'd get him putting together a team.
No, that would be cool.
So far, we've only gotten him putting together Mando. So if we spend half the episode with him trying to go get Grogu
and Luke,
could you imagine if Luke? You know what would be great though? It really would. There's been rumors of the Han Solo thing. Could you imagine Mando goes sees Luke and he says,
"I got a friend.
Do you have anybody else?" And they're like, "Yeah, we got a friend." And Boba is standing there and sees the Falcon land, and he's like, "You gotta be kidding me! I've put this guy in carbonite." And then, Chewie and Han walk out, and
you gotta stop, man.
Boba's like, "Oh, come on!" And then he's like, "No hard feelings, mate." And Han's like, "You scruffy looking nerd herder, I'm in."
He walks out with baby Chewbacca.
Chewie starts choking Boba first, and then Han's like, "No, put him down."
Okay, so now you got me really excited. Could you imagine Chewie, Black Chrysanthemum, Han Solo, Grogu, Luke, Ahsoka comes back? Like, could you imagine? Star Wars would blow up, I think. Like, if you really just wanted to blow it all sky high, you'd do it, right? Like, you would just do it. And then all of a sudden, you look over, right? And you've got the different characters coming out, and then all of a sudden you got different characters kind of show up, and you're like, "What's happening? What's going on?" And then Jar Jar Binks, bam, right into the middle of all of them.
Misa here.
Misa, I've been looking for you. Where have you been?
That would be great. Look, just dreaming. This is not going to happen, but just dreaming, seeing like Luke with his green saber, while Han is shooting somebody, while Chewie's shooting with his crossbow, Boba's flying around with his jetpack, Mando's swinging the dark saber, and Grogu's like has a little mini saber like Yoda kicking ass. Like that would be a great end to it. And Black Chrysanthemum's just like ripping limbs off people. Like that would be like
Chewie looking at him
a
like,
great
dude.
finale. That would be a great finale. Not gonna happen, I don't think, but who knows? I think they do need more than what they have. They have Mando with the Darksaber, who's not very good at it right now. They have the Mos Espa Vespas. They have the Black Chrysanthemum. They have a Rancor, which we haven't thought of. Boba riding in on a Rancor. Then imagine Luke seeing that while he's there, like, "Oh my goodness, I've defeated one of these before."
They all get in trouble, and Lando Calrissian just like flies by and gets them.
And they have the Gamorreans. Like they don't have a lot to help against a Pike army here. So I think they do need to get some more help. And whether it's older bounty hunters that Boba's worked with or Han and Chewie, I think we need at least 2 to 3 more members to help take on the Pikes for real. Or maybe it's some of the Mandalorian characters like Mayfeld, Bill Burr's character. Or, Grief Karga. Like maybe they go get some of those people. I don't know.
I just feel like Ahsoka's story is not done with them. So
we could get Ahsoka too.
Like I just feel like Ahsoka's not done. Like I just feel like this. It is kind of like that Game of Thrones thing though. Like when you're leading up to all this, and they're all kind of like putting their differences aside. Like it would be Han putting his differences aside with Boba Fett, and then
it's like the Cersei and the.
And then just having
Starks.
like Jaren come in, and then he's got to put his things aside with different Mandalore that he's had issues with, and it's like, okay, well, all right, let's put them all together and let's just see what happens. Like it would be so cool if you brought Han Solo back, even just Han Solo alone with Chewbacca. I don't know if we'd ever be able to sleep at night waiting for season 3 of Mandalorian. Like I don't. You'd be just so excited. You'd just be running on fumes all the time. But it would be just fantastic. I don't know. They've done it with Luke, so now I'm kind of thinking like they're okay with kind of doing some of these.
Exactly. They would just have to get Han on board. I mean Harrison on board. They could even tell him, "Hey, we could just de-age you and use this voice thing, and you don't have to do anything." And he'd be like, "Sounds great."
Sounds great, kid.
I don't have to show up, but I get paid. Draw it up. But yeah, so that's the end of chapter 5. Bryce Dallas Howard, give her a show, give her a movie, give her something.
Her trilogy.
You know,
for the
her
love of
and
all
Rick
God.
Famuyiwa have
Mhm.
done so great in directing these episodes of stuff. Like Rick Famuyiwa did 2 great episodes in season 1 and season 2. Give them more stuff. That would be great. But yeah, Bryce following in the steps of her father, being an actor and then becoming a director, and she's doing a fantastic job. She grew up with Star Wars because she was, her dad's friends with George. Like, it really is just a perfect match, and she always directs very well in this show, and very proud of what she's done. And
God, she did really good. She did really good episodes too. Now I'm looking back at the Mandalorian ones that she did. She did the one with the Sanctuary, which was a really good episode, I thought, with the villagers. And then what else? She did 11. Which one is that?
That is the second or third one of the. It's the third one, I think. It's the one with where Bo-Katan enters, I think. Where they first meet them. Like he's like crashing. He crashes the Razor Crest on that like water planet. At one point, and then she did a really great job with that one too.
Yep, that's the first one or that's the second one that she does, is that one. Yeah, because that's a good one too.
Yeah,
like that's a funky one, and that's when he's doing that. Is that when Grogu eats the macaroon? Is that the?
I don't think so. I think that's the next one when he's in school at Navarro.
Oh, that's the one that felt very piratey too. Like, it had kind of like Pirates of the Caribbean.
They were on a ship, and they had like a creature in the water. Yeah. She did. She's done a great job with these. So, awesome. But yeah, so that about wraps it up here. Next episode, we'll see where it goes. But you know what? This just showed me how much while Boba Fett's been great, how much I missed Mando and how much I'm looking forward to season 3. I had a grin on my face the whole time he's on that Glavis station. Like, I was just like, this is everything I wanted. And like, we're seeing, it felt like seeing an old friend again. It's been a while. It's been a year and some since we've seen him. And we're probably going until late this year, early next year without seeing him. I mean, we'll see him in these 2, I guess. But I mean, like, when we look at season 3, we're going to be a little bit away from that. I think they're still filming it. But we got Obi-Wan coming up. We got Andor coming up. So we have Star Wars stuff coming. And
those 2 are going to be really good, I feel.
And Andor's 12 episodes.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a big feel. So.
And Obi-Wan's like 4 or 6, I think. But yeah, that one will be great too.
Obi-Wan will be nostalgic out the years too.
Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor, like that's going to be great. But if you want to give us a follow, at podawakens on all the socials like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and email podawakens@gmail.com. But thanks for listening. I hope everybody enjoyed this episode of I almost said The Mandalorian, of the Book of Boba Fett, and we'll see you next week.
I have spoken.